Okay, welcome everybody to episode 26 of That Moment Heart to Heart Talk. And I am Victoria Grinman, and I'm here with Rebekah Keat. I am so excited to be here with you, Rebekah. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, there's some interviews that I'm always excited, but I'm just, you know when you're going to have a really nice, meaningful conversation with somebody. And you were actually, when I asked Siri, your wife, about who should I talk to that's meaningful, that has a story that they can share about growth through struggle, and within minutes, it was like, Rebekah.
Of course, she's not biased.
So I'm really happy to have you here. And
Thank
I
you.
know that you are, first of all, I don't know how you guys do what you do. To me, you're like superhuman. But can you tell everybody who you are in the world from your own vantage point, from your perspective? What do you do? How do you contribute? Who are you in this world, Rebekah?
Yes, well, I am a former professional athlete for like 25 years. It's kind of a funny story because Siri literally dragged me. We're all Tony Robbins fans here, or a lot of people are. Dragged me to my first UPW. And I retired at that event, and I decided that it's time for me to give back to this incredible world that's been so good to me. And I wanted to start my own triathlon club coaching athletes, but I really wanted to, my deep why was to save as many animals as we could. And then I didn't really know what that would be, if it would be in the form of horses or dogs or what it would be. It's ended up being horses. And it's been crazy how the universe has just aligned everything for us as we move forward, because we're giving to something so much greater than ourselves. And as an athlete, it's a very different perspective. You have to be selfish. You have to be, same as Siri, when you're world number one and you're at the top of the sport, you're very selfish, and it's very self-focused. And I never really sort of thought about what I was going to do when I finished with the sport. And but I knew that I loved animals, and so I had a massive epiphany at that event in 2016. It just sort of steamrolled from there, and now we have an amazing nonprofit here. I'm looking right out now at 27 rescue horses we've saved. 135 from slaughter. We saved a little Mustang last week that was rounded up by the BLM, and I can talk more about that. But Believe Ranch and Rescue is our nonprofit 501c3, which we started again after a Tony Robbins Business Mastery event. No, not to plug Tony, but it's the truth. And then last year we realized, 2019, we realized that we need to actually pass the bill. So we created an organization for legislation and lobbying, and we now have the top 2 animal lobbyists in the US working with us. We're very, very close to passing the end horse slaughter bill after 19 years, when some of these bigger animal groups just haven't been able to do that. So and I'm a lover of all good things. Exercise, obviously. My amazing wife Siri is my rock and my world, and animals. Like, that's kind of who I am, and yeah, that's what I'm about.
Oh, amazing. I couldn't help but hang on something you said, and you said you had an epiphany. And I'm thinking, this woman, this athlete, this world champion, what you said, you have to be selfish, you have to be about you have to be about your training, you have to be about what's good for you. What was the epiphany? And what was that moment?
It was my identity. And I always thought that my identity is, I'm a professional athlete. I'm an athlete. That's all I'm going to be. That's the only thing I'm ever going to achieve in my life. I missed winning an open world championship title at Hawaii. I did win 2 junior world championships and several championship events and a couple of national titles, but I always felt like I fell short. And it's crazy because Tony made us write down all our achievements, and I was reading it out to one guy who was a nurse, and his biggest achievement was becoming a nurse. And I mean, I love nurses. They save lives every day. My mum's a nurse. So we connected there, and I started reading it out. Like, I'd never really thought about what I'd achieved in the sport, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, why? This is terrible. It's not doing me any favors, and it's not other people. It's kind of dimming their light too. So I need to be proud of that. But it wasn't it wasn't my identity. And I felt like before I retired, that's all I was wrapped up in, was that was who I was. And I realized it's not true. I'm a lover of animals. I'm a lover of good food. I'm a lover of my family. I'm a lover of people. I'm a lover of giving and connecting and wanting to help. And I haven't really got to expand on that as a pro athlete. You don't have time because you're so focused on eating, sleeping, training. So that was a huge like wake up call where I realized, wow, that's not my identity. That's not who I am. And that's not all I'm going to be. There's so much more that I can give. And it just feels so good to give without any expectation and to be making a difference in these people's lives, these everyday people that are achieving things they never thought they would in the sport of triathlon and in general fitness as well. And, you know, we have 10,500 clients now that we're helping with health and fitness and triathlon, but mostly health and fitness. And we have our beautiful horses, and it just feels, it's so fulfilling. It's I say to Siri, like, and we talk about this because winning like a world championship and a national title, and it feels amazing, but the fulfillment's like fleeting. Like it may last an hour or two or a day or two, you know, when you're getting all the accolades, and that's nice. It's always nice to be recognized, but then there's like a hole, and people talk about this this Ironman, post Ironman blues, or Ironman, what is it called? Like you go into this sinking feeling where that's it, and you don't have that when you're doing something outside of yourself. So when you're saving horses, and when you wake up every day and you get to look outside and you say, there's another one that we've saved, and they thank you, or your athlete says, I just PR'd, a lady today, one of our dear friends, Karen, just said, I just PR'd in my 5K, and she's 65 years old. And I'm like, that is what it's about. Yeah.
That's incredible. So just so you know, Annette Miller says you're amazing.
I love her. She's one of our girls. Yeah. Yeah.
And you are amazing. You both are incredible. I mean, there's something very, very special. Just talking with you, I just keep getting like, I don't know what it is. I'm usually not short on words or description, but Rebekah, I'm still so you just condensed so much, and you know, and when we talk about the Tony world, right? Like Tony Robbins and the magic that happens when you go through the programs of real self-discovery, that's a huge epiphany, right? Like going from a place of when we say self-centeredness, you have to be, because you're so like it's about you and completing and competing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when we talk about the growth and contribution, and giving without wanting in return, in that, like, you're not giving to get, and, you know, no expectation. Was it like overnight, or was that something that you felt was a progressive journey for you?
It was progressive, because when you've kind of been, and I feel like I joke because I was very selfish as an athlete, but I was also probably one of the least selfish athletes, if you know what I mean. I was always looking out for other people too. I go back and I think of what I was kind of remembered for. It wasn't sort of my national titles or my first Ironman. I got the world rookie record, which was pretty cool, but we have a story to tell about that one too. But it was in 2009, the world champion, who was a world champion 3 or 4 times, Chrissy Wellington, she got a flat tire and nobody would give her a spare. And when you don't have a spare, you pull out of the race. And she's just standing on the side of the road. She'd been 10 minutes up the road and she was going to win the race for sure. And people were just riding past her, and her teammates, I wasn't her teammate, were riding past her. They had spares, they had CO2s, they could have given her to fix her tube. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like getting all my stuff out and I hand it to her. And it kind of ended up being like a moment in sport where people remember it, in triathlon anyway, not in general sport, but they remember this, Rebekah Keat handing, they always say, are you the Rebekah Keat that handed Chrissy Wellington the CO2? I'm like, oh my God, yes, because if that was me, I would want someone to do that for me. I didn't even think twice about it. And I remember my coach at the time was also Sirius coach when she was a high performance athlete. He said, you should have thrown that at her freaking head, not given it to her. And I was like, what? He's like, you're a competitor. And I felt so good about it. She went on to win the race, and afterwards, as a joke, she sent me like 30 canisters of carbon dioxide. It's the CO2 is what you pump your tires up with. She jokingly sent me that like for 5 years or something every year as a joke, because she says she wouldn't have won it without me. But I guess, I don't know, I'm a twin and I've had to share my whole life with my twin sisters. So it's innate for me. So it's kind of a funny story.
I love it. It's almost like, it is a funny story, and it's almost like you coming back to yourself through this. You know, as you said, you're a twin, you've always had to share, and going off doing what you do in life. And then it's just like your human nature. Like the thing that kept coming up for me as you were talking was like, we all put what did someone say to me? We all put our legs, you know, our pants on one leg at a time in the morning. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. You know what I mean? Like we're it's like, we're all human. And what you did was just very human.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I did it. I don't regret that.
Beautiful.
That's just me.
I love it. I love it. Amazing. And so tell me about you in terms of, and you shared a little bit of this with me off, camera, and, you shared it in an email, but there were other things that you shared about just going through life and things that actually many people deal with, but it feels so much like a unique journey when you're dealing with it. I'm so curious because you're so accomplished and genuine. And I'm so curious about your journey through some of those moments and some of those things that you've dealt with. And I was wondering if maybe you could share a couple of them.
Sure. I would say the first thing that kind of comes up for me would be going by the years of 2001 when I'd been training for quite a while. I started triathlon in 96 and it came naturally to me. I was a natural athlete. I had to work really hard too, but there's always that 2%, you can be that good. And then it's the psychology, like Tony says, 98% psychology. And I managed to win my junior world championships and several races continuing after that. And then 2001, we were out for a bike ride and we were riding a warm up for the race the next day, and my flatmate and my friend were riding with our training group, and a very young guy who's like 23 years old, Australian champion, and we rode off the front to do a few little efforts, and I saw this car kind of speed past like 100 miles an hour, way faster than, that's probably 60 miles an hour, because 100 kilometers, way faster than they should have been going, like over the speed limit. And I thought, God, what an idiot. It's like 6 a.m. What are they doing? And then I sort of see it, for me, it feels like slow motion when I remember it, but it's so vivid. I remember something saying, just slow down a little bit. Like, because when you're in your time trial bars and you're time trialing and you have your head down, it's kind of hard to slow down, but something told me slow down. I slowed down. As I slowed down, I got maybe 20 feet off the wheels of the two guys in front, which is my flatmate and one of my dear friends, Luke, the Australian champion. And the car swerved. She swerved like this, like it was a Dodgem car, like almost looked deliberate to me, missed me and my other friends and swerved into him. He went up into the air and came down and pretty much died on the scene. And my flatmate broke his back and both legs. And he was on the road, and it was just three or four of us that got to them. And all I could think was, I cannot believe I almost got killed. And I cannot believe that my two friends are lying here like this. It happened so quickly. And he ended up being okay. The family are very close to us still. It's a long story. Sirius very, very close with the family. My mom actually was partners with Luke's dad years later, and we just lost Luke's dad, but we're close family friends. And so Siri and I sort of have known Luke for years in the family, and that was something I kind of never really gotten over. The hardest part for me there was getting back on my bike and trying to ride away from the scene. And our coach at the time, I hated him because he said, get back on the bike. And I said, I can't ride. Like, I was shaking. And he said, the best thing you could do is get back on the bike. And he knew that if I didn't and I was so angry with him at the time, but he knew that if we didn't get back on and ride then, that we would probably never get back on the bike again. And it would be very difficult. So I remember being furious with him. And then he made us swim that day, and I was bawling in my goggles. And he just came out and said, oh, Luke's a vegetable. He's gone. And unfortunately, they're going to turn the life support off. And I was like, I did not just hear that. And I thank the coach now, because I think that it ended a lot of careers, that accident. Some of the people involved just stopped racing and training, or wouldn't ride outside on the bike at all. And I was terrified to ride for many years after that, but it kind of made me realize that I was so vulnerable and very scary. And I'm glad I did continue, but it's sort of, when you go through something like that and you're in front of it and you see it, sort of makes you step back. And I was still quite young. I was only 26. You just start to appreciate a lot of the little things in life and really don't take life for granted anymore. And from that point on, I never took life for granted. It kind of changed me. And I was also very careful riding my bike, because you've got to take that pretty complacently too sometimes. So that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, in my life. I've actually never talked about that, funnily enough, Victoria. So it's crazy. I've never talked about that because I found it too hard to talk about. So I feel a lot of courage today being able to speak with you about that.
As you're sharing it, I'm feeling everything for you. And just the fact that you were able to share that and let us into that, whoever's watching, and me, myself, I just feel so grateful. I'm so sorry that you had to experience that. And it's terrifying to watch something like that. And what you just said about gratitude and being able to just appreciate, and the thanks that you give to the coach for making you get back on. Those are not things that you necessarily in that moment get like, oh yeah, this is like, I'm so grateful. I acknowledge this.
Yeah, no, I would not have liked it. At the time, I was so angry.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
How do you, and this is without saying, so I kind of know the answer because of just who you are. But I mean, I imagine that this experience, because you coach as well, and you talk, I mean, you coach people in life and you coach people in physical wellness. So how has that impacted, people to come after that, through your work?
I think gratitude is everything. And Siri has it, I should get it too. Siri has it tattooed on her arm. And I think, as an athlete, I was definitely grateful for being able to do what I did and train and be healthy and strong. And I myself was actually hit by a car 3 years later and told I would never, that I would never run again. The physio said, you would never run again. I had to kind of learn to walk. I was dragging my leg, and I can talk a little bit about that. But I think all the time, it's like something smacks you in the face. Like if you're not being grateful, like it's like a wake up call. And now I'm 43 years old in a couple of days. And it's very different, especially when you're living with Siri Robbins. Where did that come from? Siri Lindley. Yeah. She lives, that's just what she lives by. So I've learned so much from my wife. And I think I live in that place all the time. We wake up and we say 3 things we're grateful for. And my first thing is always her. And then we look out, we get to see our beautiful horses, and then our family and our friends and our amazing community. And that's the place I try to live from now all the time. And always just finding that gift, like Tony says, like just find the gift in the struggle. And that's easy to say than do sometimes. And when my wife was diagnosed with AML, it was very hard to find the gift in the struggle, but I knew there was going to be one, and I just kind of held on to that. So I think it's just so important.
So important. I don't know if you always know this, but being a person of influence and being a person who's so accomplished, people watch you and people take after your modeling. And these experiences that you just talked about and the gifts that you got from the struggle from them are feeding the souls of the people that you're working with. It's just such a gift.
It is. And, this is crazy because what my wife went through, I would never wish that upon anybody. And now of course, there's a huge gift. I mean, she's helped so many people going through the same thing and going through their own struggles. And these ladies, Annette's actually one of them that's on here. These ladies, like some of the stories they tell me of what they've been through, like I just think I've been through nothing. Like it's always relative. It's like there's always someone that's been through so much more than you. And I just think like, how are they even here today? Like how do they do that? And one's like a 4-time cancer survivor. She was told she shouldn't even be here. There's just so many stories, and it's just that's where I feel just so fortunate. And I always come back to that. Like there's always someone that's just been through so much more. And it makes me kind of not, I guess, be fazed by the little things. When little things bother people and they get frustrated about just something so silly, I just don't have time for people like that. So I try to stay pretty, like close to my family and friends that support the values that I have, and that I guess seek the glass half full, always looking for the glass half full than half empty.
I love that. I love that. And the other side of that, and I'm curious what you think about this, is, many times when we're going through that journey, right? Because like there's the thing that happens and there's this journey afterwards. And then you have this story of triumph and, seeing things as a gift. But somewhere in the middle there, we all go through like ups and downs and those moments of like, just either self-pity or, thoughts that are limiting and all of that. Mm-hmm. How did you pull yourself out of that in those moments? Was it people? Was it Tony Robbins? Was it like what helps you in those moments when you seem to kind of get stuck? Or do you never get stuck? That would be amazing. I'd like to know how that.
Yeah, not that I was. I think there was someone, a female speaker. I don't know if it was Rebekah Keat. I don't want to say the wrong name, but someone who just says they never sit in that moment. They're never ever, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. But I mean, I feel like mine too. Like I just don't let myself sit in that moment. Like there's so many things you can do to break your state, and I didn't realize that's what I was doing because that's what Tony calls it, just breaking that state, breaking that pattern. Like he talks about throwing peanuts at Sage when or she was throwing peanuts at him to break his state or something, just to break their state. I didn't realize I've been doing this my whole life. Like I will go out and be with my dog or go out and be with my horse or work out or do something different or listen to good music, where some people I think that are in that bad pattern and that bad cycle, they want to like sit and eat and feel terrible and their state is bad and their body language is deflated and they listen to sad music, and like that's just not me. Like I don't want to do that. I want to feel better, so I will do something. And I sort of didn't realize that's what they call it, breaking your state, but I was doing that constantly. I just don't let myself sit in that moment, and I don't know where that comes from. If it's, I have an unbelievable role model in my mother. She has, my God, gone through way more than I've ever been through and just come out of it just so incredibly strong and just so positive. So I think it's a Keat gene or something, because my twin sister is the same. So I don't know. I feel like it's just, I've never had a role model where I've had to feel like that's how I should be. If I'm sad, let's just, I break out of it, because I saw my mom as such an amazing role model, and my sister as well, where we just supported each other and we just knew how to get out of that funk. And I feel like it's kind of intrinsic for me. I joke that, I don't really ever get depressed. I get worried and I have fear, but thankfully I've never had to really, with even everything I've gone through, I've never really sat in massive depression, because I've been able to do something that makes me feel good straight away. And a lot of the time, honestly, it's either calling my sister or my mom or just being with my animals. Like animals are such healers, and there's such unconditional love. You can probably hear the snoring over my back shoulder here. My dog, he's my boy. He's like 48 years old. Yeah.
I love how you talk about your mom and your sister, and I probably know the answer to this one too, but how important has it been to have a community of people around you during those times?
Oh, so important. And this is the thing, Victoria, with COVID, like I haven't been able to see I have a twin sister and we're so close and we look very alike. Yes, we're identical. I have a twin sister and twin nieces, which apparently is very rare. So identical twin with identical twin nieces. We have a lot of fun when I go home, but they're growing up so quick and it's been so hard not being able to spend time with them. But we Skype and everything. But my sister was there through some really tough times for me. She quit her job in London and came home, and when I was in a funky state after some of the stuff I went through when I was younger, and my mum's the same. Like she would literally get on a plane here if she had to, even risking COVID. And she did that when Siri was diagnosed, just flew straight here. And the poor thing ended up getting, well, we feel like it probably was COVID at that stage, and just to come and see me. But they're the support network from them, and Siri and her family as well. Her mum is kind of like my second mum. So I couldn't, having a twin is like a special bond, and I don't know what I would ever do if I didn't have her. She's been my rock. So it's so important to have at least someone. Everyone needs to have someone. Yeah.
Everyone needs to have someone. I love that. Whenever we connect, when my clients and I or people connect about, how to get through those tough moments, one of the most important things is a support network. And I always, think about that, and people say, yeah, that's important. And it's one of those things where common sense is not always common practice. And especially during times of COVID, right? We stop reaching out. And I even know myself, like I get so busy sometimes, and I'll say, I can't give all of myself to my call with my mom. So I'll call her tomorrow. And then tomorrow turns into the day after. So, your message is really like making sure that you really have those people in your corner, and proximity to them is so powerful.
Yeah. And, you know, that brings me to something I think about that's reminded me of something, is that before, after triathlon and while we're coaching triathletes, we've always wanted to help sort of everyday people with their fitness. And really, to be bluntly honest, like, hasn't been that successful, because we really only have triathletes that we do on deck, and these people that are sort of not new to fitness, like, they kind of need hands-on, and they need to be around you and see you face to face. But with COVID, that hasn't been possible. And we sort of created this group of these 40 women, amazing ladies, all from Melissa Etheridge fans. She had us on her show, and she said, do you want to help the girls do some working out? And let's do the 21 Days to Freedom, which was a plan we did for Melissa on the road. She was on the road traveling with her wife, and she said, how can I keep fit if I only have 15, 20 minutes? We're like, boom, 21 workouts. We're going to call it the Melissa Etheridge and Linda 21 Days to Freedom plan. So they did that, and they just kicked ass. She loved it, and they're still doing it, still working out. And we used that sort of framework to have these 40 ladies that we took on. It was almost like we didn't understand how much it was going to grow and blow up. And these women, and it's all about community and having that community, because in the past, when I've had the one-on-one athletes, they a lot of the time don't have that. And especially when it's just fitness, triathletes can go and swim and be with groups and be with squads. But if it's just general fitness, and these women that don't want to be at gyms with these big gym junkies and around like these guys, these big heavy weightlifters, they want to do it in their own home. And these 40 women that we started with, this first group, all have each other. We're all on a WhatsApp. There's Annette right there. And they have achieved unbelievable results. She could probably even write on there. She's one of the ones that has lowered her blood sugar and lost 13 or 15 pounds or something.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh, one's lost like 30 pounds. It's just unbelievable. And what worked was, you're right, Victoria, it was a community. Like, they had to be connected all the time. So we WhatsApp like 5,000 times a day. And I write back every now and then, but they're all connected. We're on a Facebook group, and now that's blown up to over 5,000 now we're helping. And it's all about the community. And when you don't have that one-on-one interaction and people feel alone, like that's what they've been missing. And it was incredible, like to have that. And these ladies they're our family now. They're amazing women. We love them so much. And I'm just so proud of them all. They're just doing things they never thought they would do. And it's so fulfilling. We love it.
You know that your energy is not normal.
I've been told that.
Aspirational, like what we say in the unblinded community, right? Like, there's like aspirational. You've got goddess energy going. Yeah. You've got
what's
energy, you've got fun energy going. I mean, you've got it all.
Okay.
and we have got people here like saying, Kristen, love the community. Annette says, off high blood pressure meds, lost 13 pounds. Sign me up. That's amazing. But I say that because I think it's important for people to recognize that, it doesn't matter who you are. We all go through things, right? But what separates, right? We all of us suffer through stuff, but the struggling, the asking for help, asking for support, being able to go to Tony Robbins or reading a book if you can't, just doing something, like looking to find a way. You've done that. And I think that that's an incredible modeling. Is that your dog down there?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. He is like,
don't be sorry. Oh,
and his snoring is just beyond.
We can't hear it.
Hear that? Sorry, guys. That's at home.
Okay, that's real life. And Rebekah, I'm curious about, and you shared this with me, I would love to hear a little bit about, you talked a little bit about identity and being yourself. And there's a part of being a gay woman that has not always been, out there for you. And I would love for you to share a little bit about that, because so many people, I think, can relate and would really love to hear about it.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny because I remember so my dad actually came out, crazy enough, and some people may not know this story, but my dad came out as being gay when I was 21. I remember him sitting us down and he's saying, look, I loved your mom and I love you girls, but I wasn't in love with her. I've been gay and I've known it since I was 13. And I kind of already knew as well. And I didn't say anything. I was like, oh my God, it was like this huge relief. I was like, my dad's gay. It's okay to be gay. But it wasn't really until then that I was kind of okay with it. And then I remember like, oh God, I just thought this is going to be a lot easier to tell my mother, and my sister kind of already knew. But growing up as a kid, like a third team, when you're attracted to your like female PE teacher, and some of my friends are on here will giggle because they like, oh yeah, I remember that. I thought, this is so weird. Like I hated myself because I thought this is not normal. Like why? I don't want to be attracted to a woman. Like, and I never forget in like year 8, I'm so sorry, my dog's snoring even louder now. In year 8, I went into the school toilets because I was so embarrassed. I was in that PE teacher's class, and I was like, stop having those thoughts. And I remember like just banging my head against the toilet door and just thinking like, I was like 13. I was like, get those thoughts out of my head. Like I was like, I just can't think like that anymore. This is not accepted, and even wasn't accepted back then. That was back in like, it was getting more accepted because I was like 1996, probably 95. Sorry, maybe 94. Mm-hmm. And for years, I really struggled with it. And I was nervous that mum would say, oh, it's a choice that you made. And it's very hard for people that aren't born gay. And I really do believe like you can fall in love with a woman and be whatever, if you want to call it straight, but I hate stereotyping. But I think that you're born that way. And I've always been attracted to women, and it just felt so awfully wrong growing up because it wasn't what society, expected, and it wasn't accepted. And there was one girl I remember that came out of school, and she was so ostracized, and I thought, well, I'm never coming out. And Siri talks about her own coming out story and how one of her sponsors said, you're going to grow your hair long and get a boyfriend. And this was a very reputable, well-known company. I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but very, very reputable brand. And so she did. That's what she did. And I kind of felt that way too. And I think my twin sister, who's straight, which we always find this really odd because I'm like, well, which part of the 99.999% on our chromosomes, because we had a chromosome test and we're like 99.999 something 8. And I'm like, okay, so the gay gene must be the 0.0000002. And we joke about it. My friends joke, you sure? I'm like, no, she's very happily married with kids. But I drew the lucky straw, yay. I remember meeting Siri in 2004. I already kind of knew of her. I looked up to her a lot on the race circuit when I was a junior. And I kind of out of myself to her, which was crazy because little did I know I was going to freaking marry her like years later. I honestly didn't know that. There was always a spark, but I remember I kind of came out to her and it just felt so good. And I knew that even though she sort of never said I'm gay, I just felt so good. And it was just such a relief. And telling my sister eventually my sister actually said to me, I know you're dating that girl, Renee. And I'm like, oh, shit, she knows. And I said, okay. And she said, well, have you told mum? And the funny, crazy story is I ended up, because it was a little gutless, but it felt at the right time it was the right thing to do. I wrote my mum a letter. Coming out when I was so funny talking about this, Victoria. This is great because I've never talked about it. I wrote my mum a letter. I think I was like 21. I wrote her a letter telling her that I can't help it. I'm attracted to women and it's not something that I can change. And no, it's not the girls I'm hanging around that have rubbed off, Mum. It's just who I am. Mm-hmm. And I wrote it. And 3 days later, Mum called me with this a little bit of a weird tone that I picked up on. And I said, oh, you've got the letter. And she said, what letter? And I said, well, Mum, I wrote you a letter telling you something. And she said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And I thought, oh, she's joking. Like she must have, because she seemed like just a little bit different. Anyway, she must have just innately known. She never got the freaking letter. And I know, and I'd taken a photocopy of the letter for my own keeping, just in case that had happened. So I had it. And so I felt so good about it because I actually got to read her, because I was quite emotionally immature still at 21 and very nervous about just telling my mum. So I read her the letter over the phone. And after that, it was just, she was amazing. She was so accepting. And of course, so was my twin. Mm. But I think that was the gift from the universe or God, whoever you believe in, was, no, you need to tell her face to face or at least over the phone. So I read her the letter. So that's kind of how I came out. And after that, it was definitely a lot easier, but it was a long time coming.
Wow. You've got so much love around you.
I do. I'm more now. We have like this amazing big family now of our fitness friends and our Tony Robbins people. It's just, yeah, surreal. I wouldn't have thought when I was a 17-year-old triathlete racing around the circuit, the world circuit, that this would be my life, but I'm extremely happy that it is.
I'm extremely happy that it is for you. Pretty incredible. So doing the math, how old were you when you met Siri?
So I raced the year I won Junior World Champs in 1996 at Cleveland. Siri was racing as a open, and I was a junior. So there's junior elite was, if you're under 23, you had to be junior or junior elite, and then over 23, you were open. She raced in the opens, and I think she was like 18th or something, and I won the Junior World Championship. So I've known her since like 1996, and we've been back and forth like on the circuit with each other. But because when you're a junior, you're always looking up to these seniors. And then even racing senior on World Cup stage, I never did as well as Siri. I was always kind of like top 10, maybe sometimes, not very often. And so there was this Siri Lindley winning freaking everything. And then I remember meeting her in a lift one day, and she was so nice to me. And usually unfortunately back then it was a little snobby, like the top pros wouldn't always talk to the juniors. Like we were kind of like, don't talk to them, they're only juniors. But Siri was always like, hi, how are you? Like she always is. And I thought, this chick's awesome, like she's the best in the world, and she's like talking to me. And there was always a spark. But we honestly didn't see that coming. And then I asked her to coach me in 2012, and she doesn't remember this, but she said no the first time. Will deny that till she's blue in the face. She said no because she was full, but she ended up taking me on. And within like the first couple of weeks, I was like, okay, I'm falling in love with this woman. I just knew we had so much in common, and she's just so happy and so positive, and I just loved her energy. And we made the decision in 2013 that if people were not happy with us being partners and her still coaching our squad, we had a lot of athletes that we had 2 world champions in the squad and a lot of top pros, that I'll just retire. I said, you're not going to stop. I'm happy to retire. I've been doing this for, then it was like 15 years. I'll just retire. If there's any animosity, I'm going to quit the sport. That's how much I loved her. And so we told the group, and everyone was pretty much fine with it. And that was hard, being coached by your own partner. That was kind of a tough one, but I loved it, and I did very well still. But so that started in 2013. We were officially sort of our first anniversary of, I even remember, date night in Noosa was February 14, 2013 on Valentine's Day.
Wow, that's amazing. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Wow. So how many years has it been?
Oh my God, was 2013. We married in 2015, so we've been married for 6 years. Yeah,
that's beautiful. I'm gonna ask you here, maybe a little selfishly, but people, I'm sure, would love to know. And maybe you got this from Tony Robbins, I don't know, but what's one tip that you have for all couples out there when things get tough?
Oh, I think honestly, one thing that you know how you do the Date with Destiny, and Tony always talks about relationships, and my big thing, and you say, do you live in the past, do you live in the present, or do you live in the future? And I just live in the future. I'm always like, go, 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 go. And I had to, when Siri was diagnosed, there's nothing more like being faced with losing your partner and faced with death than to make you feel that presence, to get that presence. And it was almost like the universe was like, well, if you're not going to be present with your partner, and I was, but not to how it is now. When you see that you could possibly lose the love of your life, like there's so much more presence. And by having that presence, which was something I always had to work on in a relationship, because I was always looking, or in our relationship, because I was such much growth and always wanting to achieve, being a high achiever. But Siri has this ability just to be in every single moment. Although she's such a high achiever, she's present with everything she does, everyone she's with. She's never distracted when she's with this person or with her horse or with her athlete. She's 1,000,000% present with them. And I don't know if it's like a little ADD. Like I feel like I definitely have a little bit of that I had trouble with being present. And that brought me back down pretty quickly when she was diagnosed. I did not leave her side. Like I was like the annoying little, like always there. She won't say it was annoying, but I was just always there with her, and I was never distracted. I basically stopped working and was just present for her because she needed me to be. And it's a work in progress. I'm still like a high achiever, so I'm always trying to work, but and the girls will tell you this too, that we coach, but but I love that. I'm driven to do that. But being present, for sure, I would say you've got to be present with your partner. And I know sometimes, not generalizing, but men can sometimes have a little bit more struggle with this. But for most women, they want to be seen and they want to be heard, and Siri especially. And even if it's like 15 seconds, just looking them in the eyes and just saying, "Oh, are you okay today, babe? What did you do today? How was your walk? Or how was work?" Like you have to take the time to do that. I think it's very important for all women. Like we want that, right? So
we've got resounding yeses and stories of pound transformations in the chat. You're incredible. I love that you shared that. Thank you. Yeah. And somebody said something to me recently that just seems like it fits, Rebekah, and it's that it's how we love people and we're in love with them, but it's who we get to be when we're with them. Mm-hmm. And it just sounds like in your stories, your acknowledgement and love for Siri and the relationship and the union that you have, it's like you get to be who you want to be inside of this relationship, both with her and on your own. But it just feels like who you get to be is this incredible being, this person that you want to be, and who you want to show to the world.
I think everyone deserves that. And you know what? I didn't even realize that I wasn't being authentically myself in my last whatever relationships. But if you have the right partner, if when you're in the right with the right one, when you have the one, because you can just be you. Like we are silly and funny and stupid, and like Siri's such a klutz sometimes, and like it's just we could just be ourselves. Like, and you shouldn't have to dim your light or hide who you really are. And I think if your partner doesn't allow that, then you guys need to work on that, because that's just so important. And that's dimming the light. I remember I think Tony's maybe said that, or Siri maybe, but you should never have to dim your light for anyone else. Like you should be able to shine it. And I used to kind of feel a little, I don't want to kind of brag too much or be too happy or be too excited or brag too much about how amazing my partner is and our partnership is, but when you're dimming your light, that's not allowing others to shine. And Siri says that all the time too. I think it's just so important that you can be you and be authentically you. And I definitely get to do that. My wife sees my good sides and my bad side.
Amazing. I completely agree with whoever said it, Tony or Siri, maybe both. But yeah, Rebekah, when you share the extraordinary things that you've done and been through and your relationship and how beautiful it is, it only adds to us. I mean, I see myself in what you're sharing. I see myself in the things that I want to be doing that you're sharing. It's incredible. It's an incredible gift when you give that way. So thank you. Thank you so much. We have a don't dim your light. That's what we love about you.
Oh.
And thank you, Kristen. I want to highlight so badly what you and Siri are doing for the horses. And I'm going to make sure that we do this a little bit more after the interview and give people a lot of information of how to get in touch with you regarding it. But please, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because you guys have such a love for horses, saving them from slaughterhouses. And now you're doing a lot of amazing things for people who are suffering and struggling through some challenging times. Share a little bit with us.
Yeah, we're very proud. A lot of our horses have gone on to be therapy horses. One of our boys, Tank, who was one of the first horses we ever saved, is like a therapy riding horse, and he's like the star of an equine therapy riding school for kids with MS and kids that are going through trauma. And so we just started actually equine therapy. We did a few test events last year, and then, the year before with COVID, we didn't do anything. It was too risky. But this year we really hope to do more. And we've just hired our first psychotherapy trained horse therapist who has a focus group for sexually abused women, women that have suffered from sexual trauma. And we also have, of course, close to our heart, we want to work with cancer survivors and their families and people going through cancer. So many of you who have been around horses for a little while would know that they're just such huge healers, and they healed my wife. She had the gift of being able to come home because of COVID. And people say COVID's so horrible, and it is horrible. People are dying from it. That's the horrible side of it. But the gift for us was that my wife got to come home, and she was supposed to be living next to the hospital. We were supposed to live next to the hospital for 100 days, but after day 37, we convinced the doctor that it was safer to be on the farm, which it was, because even at the apartment we were next to the hospital, there was a lot of people from the hospital and a lot of people that weren't that healthy, and were in and out of lifts and I was going to the supermarket and stuff. And even though she had to stay inside and she was immunocompromised, so we convinced the doctors to the first time ever let Siri come home, and she healed so much quicker. Like her blood work, they've never seen anything like it. And it was just more proof that being with her horse, Savannah, our first ever rescue, she helped Siri heal. She knew. She would walk slowly with her, put her head on her. When Siri first started riding, she was weak. Savannah just knew. And Savannah's freaking wild. Like, I'm telling you guys, like, if you saw her, you're like, yeah, I'm not getting on that freaking horse. Like, now Savannah knows that Siri's strong, can handle her. But when Siri wasn't well, she knew. And I was terrified, because I know Savannah would just like to take off when she felt like it, right? It was her choice. I'm going, like, Mom, hang on. But she would walk so slow, take little steps, like really calm, and was such a good girl. And as Siri got stronger, then she started just to test her a little bit more. But I saw that bond, and like, Siri will walk outside, and I do it with my guys too. They all know their names. Like, anyone who says horses doesn't know their names, they know their names. Like Savannah, Cassie, like every one of them, Apples, Appy. Like, I all have different kind of conversations with each one. And there really is such a thing as horse talk. Like, they know their names. They have, I don't want to get this wrong, but I think I remember reading they have the brain of probably like a 4-year-old child, which is quite mature. Like, my nieces are just turning 5, and they're freaking smart. Like, they know when someone's not coming back, if you lose someone, they understand like pain, and they understand like all those human emotions. The horses freaking do, like, much smarter than dogs. I hate to put my little doggy down here who's still snoring, but just that I really saw the power of horses and how they heal. And we're really excited to start the therapy side at Believe Ranch and Rescue here, and bring some people out, and just be able to give back there, because I said to you, this should be like subsidized with Medicare, because Medicaid, I think you call it here, because they honestly heal. They heal better than even medicine sometimes. So I'm really excited to start that, and we have our Horses in Our Hands Action Fund, which we created to lobby the bill too. So we've got sort of like a lot going on right now.
I love it. The story that you just told, I think Siri shared it too in her interview with me, and I love it, right? When we talk about energy transference and just, being able to be with Siri and then feel when she was being able to, and then pushing her a little bit, and then like trusting her. It's just absolutely incredible. And I love what you're doing. So you have this, you have the support that you're starting. You are also lobbying. And I know that lobbying takes a lot, and it takes a lot of funding. And so, Rebekah, a lot. And if people are watching and they're interested in getting involved, what kind of people are you looking to get involved? What are you needing? Is it funding? Is it support?
Yeah. So while we rescue horses with Believe Ranch and Rescue here at the ranch, so we try to save as many horses as we can from slaughter. I think we're up to 135 horses now. We saved a little Mustang that got rounded up by the BLM. We saved her last week, but 135 is nothing. Like, every year, over 60,000 horses are shipped to slaughter for human consumption. And I didn't even know this like 5 or 6 years ago. And the slaughterhouses in the US it's like a default language, the reason why that they're closed down, but it's not banned here. What's happened is that we're not funding the inspections by the agriculture, I forget what they're called, but the USDA inspections aren't being funded. So that's they're kind of shut down through default. And every year that language needs to come back in. And right now, instead, though, these kill buyers that exist are shipping healthy, sound horses. And this is the problem. They look for healthy, sound horses because it's a delicacy in Europe. They want like tender meat. It's just horrific when they're not even, the way they're killed is just even more barbaric. I won't go into detail, but they're shipped to Mexico and Canada, 2 days, no food, no water. They're whipped and beaten and killed in front of their friends, suffer for several minutes. And I won't go into detail on how they're killed, but it's so inhumane. And someone asked me the other day, well, why not cattle? And how is it different? any animal. I can't stand thinking of killing any animal or any living thing. They're all sentient beings. But with horses, as much as I hate the thought of anything being killed, any animal, and this factory farming is even another story, but the slaughterhouses weren't set up to take care of it's definitely not humane euthanasia, but cattle are stunned and they go like that. It's still horrific. But horses, the lot's not set up to kill horses, and so what they use to kill a cow doesn't work for a horse. So they're flight animals, so it doesn't work. And not to mention the barbaric whole pipeline from auction to the feedlot to Mexico and Canada. So we decided that it's amazing that we're saving these horses, 135, but why isn't there a bill to ban this? And well, there actually is. And for 19 years, many lobbyists and activists and big animal groups have tried to pass what was known as a SAFE Act, but we're now going to just call it the End Horse Slaughter Bill, because it's going to be reintroduced, I think, with a different name. But this bill has been sitting there, and it could literally stop horse slaughter right now. And it hasn't been passed because the public just don't know about what's happening. So we've got to bring awareness. So we started Horses in Our Hands, Action Fund, C4. We got two of the best lobbyists, convinced two of the best lobbyists in the US to come on board. The guy who wrote the bill, Chris Hyde, he wrote it 19 years ago, and the poor guy has been trying to fight this and ban it for 19 years. And he's the reason why slaughterhouses are closed down here, because he went undercover and took footage and brought it to court, and thankfully they shut them down for now. But we're working on passing the bill. And we've had this amazing campaign going since last year. We raised $500,000 in Calmigos with some amazing celebrities. Melissa Etheridge, Tony Robbins was there, Willie Nelson. And the funding goes like this. And as much as people say, well, why don't you just use that to save horses? I was like, yeah, we're going to be saving hundreds of thousands of millions of horses. Like, of course, we want to save every horse. And while we're doing that, we need to pass the legislation so we're saving every horse, not just 500 horses. So, and that funding, we still really need help with that, because hiring two of the best lobbyists in the US is not cheap. And we want it to be at the top of their priority too. So it's pretty much Siri and I kind of spearheading it with these two lobbyists and an amazing kind of social media team. We've reached about 14 million on social media. We've sent 116,000 letters to legislators telling them to support the bill. We've gotten further than any animal group has in 20 years, in just 12 months. And we're putting a commercial out, which starts tomorrow, actually. I know a few channels picked it up. Dennis Quaid heard about what we were doing, and we've done a documentary, and he's putting our documentary on his Dennis Quaid's Viewpoint TV. But our ad's going to be played. Our commercial, our ban horse slaughter commercial, is going out from tomorrow on CNN, NBC, Fox, and we had some great news just last week about some more channels picking it up. So people want this done. Like, America wants it to end. 80% of Americans don't agree with horses being shipped for human consumption, for slaughter for human consumption. And we really feel like that we are going to get the job done by the end of the year. So I'm saying all this, I think, how the hell did we do that?
Well, I just want to say, for people who, and you've got, by the way, I mean, like, you've got a fan group. You've got a fan group, man. When people, when we talk about helping one person, one horse, wow, it's so bright. The sun just came out as we were talking about this. We're talking about one people, one horse. And then, what does it take? And this is for myself, for other people who are trying to do these things. What does it take to impact many, many people? And that's what I'm about. And what you and Siri are doing, I mean, like, case in point right here, it is not easy work. It is hard, work, and a lot of things that go into it that we don't even know about. But what you're doing is incredible. And also, trying to do the therapeutic stuff, trying to do the lobbying stuff, trying to make sure to keep on top of it. So I urge anyone and everyone who's interested and who has the ability to support, to please support. Go to believeranchandrescue.org. We've got your friend over here, horsesinourhands.org, showing that. Lots of support.
And can I ask a question, Vic? If
Sure.
there's anybody listening that happens to have any connections with legislators, we kind of need our A team and our legislators that would get behind this. We have several, but we really need someone that that is really going to kind of be our spearheading it on the legislative side. And there's people that support the bill for sure, but they're all busy with other things. I understand horse slaughter is not going to be at the forefront of 99.9% of people's, priorities. But if there happens to be an animal lover that may know someone that could send them our way, we'd be really grateful.
Love that. Thank you. From your mouth to everyone's ears. And I'm almost positive. I'm positive that somebody will be reaching out to you. I just think this is incredible, Rebekah. I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I was reflecting on this talk during our chat, and one of the things I think about is I talk to a lot of people about their life stuff, right? And I do it for a living. I don't know if I necessarily ever exposed some of the things that are there for me in my own. And as you're talking so vulnerably and you're so authentic and not put on and so genuine, I'm like, if you can do it, I can do it. And I think that's important, because when we talk about like our why, like why do we do what we do? Why us? Like why are we the ones to help people? Like that's our story. And what you just did, you shared so much from the heart. I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you've had a little epiphany yourself there. That's amazing.
I did. I'm going to go update all of my bios with my real story as to why.
Yes, I want to read that too, please.
I love that. Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. I very much want to support you and Siri in your efforts with horses. I think that they're healing creatures, and in all of my experience with working with children in the special needs realm, my ears just kind of peaked when, Siri and you were talking about it in our unblinded group, and I thought, wow, this is incredible. It really needs to be told.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've got friends there. All right. Well, Rebekah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we're all very, very grateful, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you.